This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark Magnuson.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is September 4th. It is Wednesday, and we're so glad you could join us for today's show. In today's episode, we have the latest edition of Between the Pods. I will be joined by Warren Bachman, District 8 Director with the Iowa Soybean Association, as we will learn about his recent trip to the Soy Connects Conference in San Francisco. That's coming up in today's show, but first, let's take a look at the closing market summary.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
At the end of another trading day, we are joined now by Kenan Layden of agmarket.net for our closing market analysis. Kenan, we had a good day in the grains yesterday. Was it the same story here today?
Yeah, very much so. Gains all the way across the board besides in that canola and soy oil, and the same story is probably weighing on those markets with the Chinese Canadian canola debacle that is currently going on.
And Kenan, when we talk about the grains right now, and specifically the soybeans, was it a case then that we just got so low on the soybeans to kind of close out last month that we were due for a little bit of a technical bounce here this month?
It probably depends who you ask, Mark. If you're talking to a technical person, such as Brian Splitt, as you go down here, you see like chances of whipsaw risk, even if the bear trend continues, the secular bear trend from highs, into the future. That doesn't mean we can't have sustained rallies for months at a time. And so, yeah, your thesis of we got so low and, technically it had to rally, is a good one. But, I remind guys to always be aware of, the fundamentals here that, Brazil growing a big crop and the U.S. having a big crop, if those are realized, continued pressure may be put on this market. So have a plan in place for that, but make sure that it's flexible enough to take advantage of these type of rallies we have, or that's on weather in Brazil or the United States.
And speaking of that weather here in the United States, is it a case right now that we have actually had a stretch run of warm and sometimes even hot and dry weather this last little stretch of a week or two? Has that been enough to maybe clip that very top of those yields and what they could be?
That seems to be what the market's trading right now, Mark. This hot, dry August will not fare well for the beans. And, Pro Farmer Tour had huge pod counts, but those pods have to fill and they need water to fill. So, the market's trading some of that weather. Whether we get that yield hit, I guess we'll have to see here as the combines start rolling here in a few weeks.
Let's go over to the other side of the markets now and the livestock complex. What did we see with the cattle and hogs in trading today?
Feeder cattle were down, over $1 across the board there. Live cattle were, flat to slightly down. That October contract was up, 2 cents, 2.5 cents. And then hogs were down harder in the front months there.
And Kenan, with those livestock, talking about cattle and hogs right now, what have been those conversations for cattle producers right now when we know that they are very low on just the overall numbers of cattle and they're feeding those cattle to heavier weights? Has that kind of been working out for them so far?
Yeah, fundamentals, in the industry are, as you've heard multiple times on this program, supportive of prices, but then there's some things that are working against, like you said, like they're feeding cattle to be heavier and larger. And so the amount of pounds that are slaughtered is actually up from last year, just because of, less cattle numbers, but, there is less heifer retention. Heifers aren't being retained yet, and those cattle are large. So, there is ways, that people have made very good money here with cheap corn and feeding those cows heavy, and they're not being docked at packers. And then, the feeder cattle, some of that depending on where you are, whether you're a cow calf or if you're buying, stocker steers to run on grass, and the prices and hedging, will make a difference, if you're profitable this year or not. Just kind of depends on the operation. But yeah, there's plenty of room for profit. And then there was some, if you bought steers too high and, the prices have kind of slowly worked down here, could have took a hit.
He is Kenan Layden of agmarket.net, our guest here on Wednesday. Kenan, what's the best way for our viewers to get in touch for more marketing information?
Yeah, check us out on the web at agmarket.net.
Kenan, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you to Kenan Layden of agmarket.net for our closing market summary. Let's take a look now at the closing numbers, which can be found anytime under the markets tab of our website at iowaagnet.com.
December corn closes up 3.5 at 412 3/4. November soybeans up 9.5 at 1021.5. October soybean meal up 8.40 at 325.80. October soybean meal down 76 cents at 40.72. Chicago wheat up 14 even at 5.80 3/4. Minneapolis wheat up 16 1/4 at 623.5. Kansas City hard red wheat up 16 3/4 at 593 even. December oats up 9 3/4 at 357 even. On the Merc, October live cattle down 5 cents at 179.22. September feeder cattle down $1.75 at 239.62. October lean hogs down 95 cents at 81.57. October pork cutout unchanged at 91.55. Class 3 milk up 4 cents at 22.61.
That wraps up our closing market coverage for today. It's time now for a quick break to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff. And when we come back, I will be joined by Warren Bachman with the Iowa Soybean Association for Between the Pods.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
In today's episode, it is the latest edition of Between the Pods. I'm joined by Warren Bachman, District 8 Director with the Iowa Soybean Association, as we learn about his recent trip to the Soy Connects Conference in San Francisco.
Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm here today at the Iowa Soybean Association booth. We are at Farm Progress Show 2024, and I'm here with Warren Bachman. And Warren, could you tell me your role within the Iowa Soybean Association, please?
I'm on the Iowa board, District 8 representative. I'm in my third term, just finishing my 8th year.
And Warren, remind us, please, where District 8 is in the state of Iowa?
South Central Iowa.
And Warren, you recently went on a trip to San Francisco as part of the Soy Connects Conference, which was put on by the U.S. Soybean Export Council. What did you learn at that conference in meeting with some international buyers of U.S. soybeans?
Well, they have lots of other opportunities to buy from other countries, but they prefer the Iowa soybeans. The big thing is we have to be competitive in our price. That was one of the things. Of course, we all know that. They're no different than any other farmer. We want to buy cheap, and they like our quality and our service. Our transportation system is superior to everybody, and we have maybe not the highest protein, but we have more feed value in each bushel of beans.
That's very interesting, and that was going to be where I wanted to go with this, Warren. We know that sometimes United States soybeans are not the best deal in the ag marketplace, just based on the calendar and where we are looking at in terms of buying and selling grain. So how do you make up that difference? And like you said, do buyers really value the quality of United States soybeans?
Yes, that was spoken to us many times. And the Jim Sauter, the U.S. soy export person, CEO, gave very good talks explaining the value of our beans, that maybe the protein isn't quite as high, but the end feed value is still probably the cheapest product they could purchase.
So when we're talking about how U.S. soybeans, Iowa soybeans stack up against some other countries, we do have better quality then, just in terms of the overall bean, it seems like?
Yes, we do. A lot of things. less FM normally than the Brazilian beans. And we've toured Brazil several years ago. They harvest beans a lot wetter, so our moisture content is usually a little lower than theirs. Their beans, most of them have to be dried, so there's more damage in them. We just have a superior product, and we need to spread that word to the world.
So just to put it in a nice, neat package, you would say then that Iowa soybeans, they just go farther.
Yes, I do. More bang for your buck.
And Warren, we hear all the time as well that whenever people from United States commodity groups or specifically United States farmers meet with these international consumers, international buyers, that can really make a big difference, that face-to-face meeting. Did you get that sense at a conference like this?
Yeah, they want to see who they're doing business with. They want to talk to the growers to hear how our crop is, what our prospects are for this coming year, and just put a face to who they're doing business with. Not much different than an Iowa farmer when he's buying seed or buying a tractor or something. You probably want to at least talk to the man.
And if you are going to do a deal or even just learn more about a product, to do that handshake at the end from someone that's standing there right with you, that really helps to, like you said, drive that message home of who's actually growing these soybeans and getting them out to the world.
Yes. Well, one thing I was surprised at were how many buyers were at that conference. I think it was represented, 62 countries represented, and 700 and some buyers. I talked to a seller that worked for a crush plant, and he says this is one conference that we'll never miss because it brings so many buyers together.
And we know that the Iowa Soybean Association, the national soybean groups, they do a great job of growing the marketplace for and demand for soybeans, and specifically U.S. soybeans, Iowa soybeans, of course. How have you seen these efforts really pay off? Is it events like this and other events that you've been to through ISA?
Yes. The customer wants to see you. He wants to talk to you. We try to put forth a good image of our farms, and they're just glad to see us. We have traveled to other countries and seen how they produce things, and we just can grow a superior product.
And like we started our conversation with, yes, at times you can get better deals based on whatever the ag marketplace is determining in terms of soybeans, but at the end of the day, you can make up that difference through the quality a little bit, and then like we said, it can just go farther. But then those relationships in business as well can make a big difference.
Yeah, we're trying to build lasting relationships. We're producing a surplus product. They have many choices. Brazil and Argentina are producing twice as many beans as the United States is today. So they can go somewhere else. We have to sell our product.
And driving that demand up is the way to do it. He is Warren Bachman. Warren, is there anything else you'd like to let our listeners, our viewers know about when it comes to the work that's being done to make sure that the demand is always growing? How can our viewers and listeners find out more?
Well, the Iowa Soybean Association is who I was there with, and that's who you need to contact. I've been on the board 8 years. I think they're doing an excellent job. There's 22 of us on the board. We kind of manage what happens and how we spend the checkoff money. And I would say that generally it is spent well.
He is Warren Bachman, District 8 Director here in the state of Iowa for the Iowa Soybean Association. Warren, thanks so much for taking the time to tell us about your trip, everything you learned, and best of luck as you close out your third term.
Thank you. Been nice visiting with you, and everybody have a safe harvest.
Thank you to Warren Bachman for joining today's show. And that does it for Between the Pods and our episode of Ag Matters PM. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on the notification icon as well. That will let you know whenever we have any new videos available for you. You can also follow us on social media at Facebook, X, TikTok, and LinkedIn. And also, you can listen to our free morning, midday, and closing market podcast. Also, our daily Iowa Ag Matters podcast. You can find that on our podcast page at iowaagnet.com. Also, listen to it wherever you get your favorite podcast at Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. For Riley Smith, Dustin Huffman, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.